Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're taking a look at one of my absolute favorite beat-em-ups, and that's Mutation Nation on the Neo Geo CD. It was originally released in Japan in 1991 and in 1992 everywhere else, and it was developed and published by SNK. And between this, Burning Fight, and Robo Army, I'd say they definitely know their way around a beat-em-up. The plot to this one is really cool. A mad scientist has flooded a city with all kinds of crazy mutants and robots of his own design. So it's up to Ricky and Johnny, players 1 and 2 respectively, to fight them all back and keep them from spreading all across the nation. It almost sounds like the plot to a trauma movie. This is especially awesome because instead of just beating up generic thugs, you'll be taking on all manner of hideous creatures and so forth. At its core, Mutation Nation is a fairly standard beat-em-up as far as gameplay goes. You have an attack button and a jump button. Beat the hell out of every enemy that comes onto the screen and move on until it's time for a boss fight. Wash, rinse, and repeat. Where it differs from most other games in the genre is that there are no weapons to be found in the game. Instead, you can pick up orbs that allow you to perform screen-clearing super attacks by charging the attack button. And each color grants you a different attack. You can perform a power move after you've run out of orbs as well, but you'll sacrifice a bit of health. There are also orange orbs that either restore a bit of health, or if your health is already full, it adds an extra stock to your power moves. This feature, added on top of what's already a solid playing game, just makes Mutation Nation that much more enjoyable. The difficulty is pretty much what you'd expect from a direct arcade port, though you can tone it down if you want to, and you well might. Some of these bosses can get pretty frustrating. Regardless though, Mutation Nation is a really solid beat-em-up and very fun. It's not as well known as Final Fight or Streets of Rage, but I think it should be. Mutation Nation features some pretty outstanding presentation. The character sprites, for starters, are really big, especially the bosses, and feature a pretty high level of detail and some very cool designs. The final boss in particular looks really awesome. He's like a mix between the Queen Alien and something out of John Carpenter's The Thing. The stages also look really good. Again, a lot of little details, a lot of color, and some nice scrolling effects. The sound design is great too. The soundtrack has a lot of high energy, catchy tunes that match the action really well. A proper soundtrack is important to my enjoyment of a beat-em-up, so I'm really pleased with this one. I actually think it's comparable to Fatal Fury's soundtrack. A big draw of these Neo Geo games is that they're supposed to be arcade perfect. I've never played the arcade version of this one, but I have to assume there's not a huge difference. Also, despite the fact that this is being played on a Neo Geo CD, it's not filled with tons of loading screens, which is a huge plus. So this is a game that I highly recommend, especially to lovers of the old school beat 'em up style. If you want a copy for yourself, the CD version will probably run you about $60, which isn't exactly what I would call cheap, but when compared to the few hundred you'd have to spend on the AES version, it's downright reasonable. If you're in the mood to bash in the heads of some mutant freaks with extreme prejudice, Mutation Nation just might be the game for you. Check it out.